Hey folks, and welcome to my Best Games of 2022 video. For those of you who watched my 2021 Best of Year list, you might remember that since I was no longer making impressions videos, I hoped that in 2022 I'd be able to get more critique videos out. Ha! It wasn't meant to be, but a lot did happen this past year. I started streaming on Saturdays, and that's been a fun experience, especially because it was a way to play through all the games in the itch.io Ukraine bundle. I had a wild idea to play through a bunch of Atari 2600 games and document my thoughts, working on the project for about 30 minutes each day, and I managed to get it published before the end of the year. I'm now working on a follow-up with the NES. Lastly, the way I make the critiques changed a bit this year. Streaming got me more used to appearing on camera, so that'll likely be a permanent feature in my videos from now on. But not this one, I like making the clip shows. Now, in that Best of 2021 video, I talked about a restriction I had imposed on myself, that I wouldn't play any new game until a year after it was released. Well, in 2022, I caved on that. I think it was in February or March. It was Windjammers 2 that did it of all games. I remember loving the original so much that I wanted to play the sequel, and since it was on Game Pass, that made it a much easier decision. That was just going to be a one-off, but then I heard people talking about Sifu and I got curious, so I decided to change my mind. I rationalized that if I want to be the best game critic I can be, I need to keep myself plugged in to what kind of games are coming out. So I spent the year playing about 30 minutes of every new release and recording it to make it easier to acquire footage for this Best of Year video. That's forethought. For new viewers, even though I played most of the significant PC releases of 2022, this is not a list of the best games of 2022. This is a list of the best games I played in 2022. There are games on this list from the past year, but there are also games from 2021 that I stopped myself from playing last year, and a couple from even earlier. The following is a list of my favorite games that I put on my critique list this year. I will write a short paragraph on each of them, and then at the end, I'll briefly talk about some games I completed this year that I really enjoyed. The following list is in alphabetical order. All good? Then let's begin. Medieval. I first saw Medieval being speedrun at AGDQ. The wild abstract architecture called out to me, and I had to play it. Now, while I did grow up in the era of fast-paced first-person shooters in the 90s, I never liked Hexen or Heretic all that much. I just never vibed with the style. I am vibing with Medieval. It feels like how I remember those old games playing. It's twitchy, maze-like, and it gets my adrenaline pumping. I love the way it looks, and the weapons are odd enough that I can't wait to see what else gets added to my arsenal, as well as to see those later architectural nightmares that I remember staring in awe at while watching the speedrun. Citizen Sleeper. When you wake up every day in Citizen Sleeper, your energy levels are represented by a selection of rolled dice. To perform actions on the space station, to eat, to work, to earn chits, and to find a way to stop the body you've loaned from the megacorp you've escaped from deteriorating, you must use these limited dice to make decisions. Some of the decisions are risky, and because these are dice rolls, successful outcomes are not guaranteed. As you spend more time on the space station, you form connections to people and places. What I like so much about Citizen Sleeper is despite its bleak premise, there's a hope in building something for my character on the space station. And the idea that because of the dice rolls and the type of character I'm playing, no two games may play out the same way, that my story through the game might be uniquely mine. I look forward to seeing if that's the case. Deathloop. I only got to play the intro section of Deathloop, but found myself pulled into the mystery of who Colt is, why Juliana wants to kill him, and why he's reliving the same day over and over again. How the game looks and plays brings to mind previous Arcane efforts. While I never vibed with the Dishonored games, I always appreciated the production value, and since I find myself intrigued with Deathloop's characters and premise, here's hoping that I'll enjoy my time uncovering its secrets. Loop Hero! There's something relaxing about watching my hero walk around a loop fighting monsters, getting better gear, and then putting more obstacles in his path in order to fight bigger monsters and get better gear. When things finally got too much for him, the town appeared, with skill trees to grow this community, which obviously helps in fighting bigger monsters and getting better gear. It's a very different vibe, but I see Loop Hero scratching a similar itch to Vampire Survivors, and I look forward to seeing how deep this rabbit hole goes. Mini Motorways! One reason that I never finished many games before this channel forced me to is I always want to be as efficient as possible. I'll gain a few levels in an RPG and say to myself, okay, now that I know how the leveling system and the quests work, I'm going to restart and do things right this time. Mini Motorways plays into this compulsion. The gameplay itself isn't rolling with the punches, but every time I saw my city grow, I noticed all the things that weren't placed right, and how if I had a clean slate, I could do it right next time. So, either this game will teach me that small mistakes are just part of life, and I should try and account for them as I go about my work, or I'll descend into madness trying to create the perfect city plan. Either way, I think it's going to be fun. Panzer Dragoon Remake! I've never played a Panzer Dragoon game. I don't think I've even seen one before. If this remake is indicative of how the original looks, my god, it's gorgeous! Even though I'm on rails, these are wonderful spaces to fly around in. Almost like I'm on a Dragonback tour guide with some light shooting involved. The gameplay itself gave me flashbacks of my time with Child of Eden, and I bet eventually, like that game, it gets quite hectic. But based on the first level, I think I'm going to enjoy my time with Panzer Dragoon Remake. Psychonauts 2! Psychonauts 2 was one of those games I've been waiting years for. I love the first game, and this picks up pretty much where the first game left off. It looks nice, it plays nice, and I enjoyed the conceit of the opening tutorial area. It's more Psychonauts, but it feels like the sequel lacks the sharp edges of the original game. Maybe that will ultimately make it less interesting, but I look forward to finding out. Sable! Speaking of sharp edges, I love the look of Sable. It's been said many times, but it's like I'm playing a game made out of Mobius illustrations. As for how it plays, well, that's the sharp edge. It's a little janky. The frame rate is all over the place, and it took far too long for me to work out where I had to go next. But the atmosphere of exploring a world that looks like this and allows for such traversal is enough to keep me interested. The Forgotten City. What a fascinating premise. Waking up next to a river, a lady asks you to find her partner who went exploring in a cave. You find remains of an ancient Roman civilization. Then you get sent back in time to that civilization. The problem is there's a curse. If any member of this community commits any crime, the entire town will be punished. The leader asks you to investigate. That's where I left things. I'm excited to find out about what's actually going on here and where the story will eventually lead. The Journeyman Project, Pegasus Prime. I love the FMV games of the 90s, and somehow the Journeyman Project series escaped me. I bought it on a whim over Good Old Games, and boy am I glad I did. It's a science fiction comedy adventure game. The intro took up most of my time, but even just interacting with my apartment and the AI companion was enough to get me on board. I guess I'll find out if this is one of the few FMV titles that deserve to be remembered fondly. Tunic! Tunic is a game of exploration and understanding. Collecting pages of the manual is part of the game. Learning what they mean will obviously yield revelations. In the meantime, as I was making my way through its early stages, trying to understand what to do next, I was greeted with delightful music, a cozy world to explore, and the adorable nature of our little fox. It obviously takes inspiration from The Legend of Zelda on the NES, and I look forward to furthering my understanding of this delightful experience. I played a lot of games for impressions. I recorded footage for 77, but if I wasn't gelling with a game, I didn't keep the recording. I also played through 5 games for critique videos and a host of others on stream. For the critique games, it was a tough call, but I decided my favorite game I played this year is Persona 4 Golden, closely eking out Yakuza Kiwami. As for memorable stream games, well, here are a few. A Short Hike was a lovely little trip up and around a mountain. Bunflower was one of the many games I played from the Ukraine bubble. Made for Game Boy, it's about a cute little bunny walking around its town trying to find food. If Found is the most visually striking visual novel I've ever played. I found myself wishing the best for Cassio as the story unfolded. Patrick's Parabox is a puzzle game about recursion, but the way it visually represents this mind-bending idea made it highly accessible. I couldn't believe I'd gotten as far as I did on stream. Finally, we have Raccoon, a game of laughter and a game of sadness. Man, did the ending wreck me, and I just found out recently the sequel is on its way. I look forward to being emotionally wrecked again. But now it's your turn. What are the best games you played in 2022? Like my list, they don't even have to be from 2022. I just want to know what games most excited and emotionally affected you this year. Let me know in the comments. I'd also like to know which games out of my list you'd be most excited to see me cover in 2023. And that's it for another year. I think 2023 will be a good one for the channel. I have a lot planned. I think I've worked out how to have a more consistent schedule. We shall see. Well, I hope you've all had a wonderful holiday season. Happy New Year, everybody. Let's make 2023 the best it can be. Until next time, I hope you're all well, enjoying your gaming, and I wish you all a wonderful day.